right out of the sky. Like I looked up, I was looking for airplanes or anything like that. No, there was nothing there. It was just, okay, so this is how it occurred. Basically, I was pulling out of my driveway in the Jeep right out there, about to head to work, and I'm on the main road, our little street there. And check this out. This is the page that really, this is what it's all about.
Okay.
So basically, I keep it over here on the network switch, so the energy goes out throughout the internet. So
Okay.
it has that whole field, and that's why I keep it over there. But basically, so I'm about to drive to work, and all of a sudden, in my peripheral vision, out the left-hand side, I see this black thing go down like this vertically, like a black bar. And I'm like, what the hell was that? So I stop, I put on the brakes, I look over to the side, I see this little cloud of dust. So I pull the Jeep over and park it and put it into neutral so I'm out of the middle of the street. And I open up the door and the dust is settling and there's this black book there. And it's face up and it has gold letters and I'm like, no way. And I walk over and it's like Holy Bible. I'm like, what the hell? What the? You know, my language, it's a little sailor language in there. What? And so I go over and I pick it up. And I look at it, I'm like, oh my God. And right then, Maritza's coming out of the side door to our house. And she's going over to her mom's car to check on something in her mom's car. And so I call her over. I say, sweetie, come over here. And she's like, what? And I said, look, what just fell out of the sky? And I was like, and it said, King James Version, which is, I'm very against the King James Version.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why would my guides, if they were sending me this, why would they send it in the King James Version? Like, they know I've got to think about that. And so I was like, because I don't really read the Bible too much, but I know enough about history about what the King James Version did.
Right,
And I
yeah,
just
yeah.
like, that's the last thing I wanted to be associated with. So, but anyway, I was like, do you, and I handed it to her. I was like, do you want this? And she goes, no, you know, that's for you. And I'm like, okay, well, and I explained the story, how it just, you know, fell out of the sky. And so I got back in the Jeep and I drove to work and I was like, well, I do what I did with most books. I grabbed it and I kind of opened it up and I opened up to this passage right here, Leviticus 19. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto all the congregation of the children of Israel, and say unto them, ye shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. And I was like, well, that's kind of a cool little passage. I mean, I'm not so much into the Bible, but, you know, God's holy and he wants us to be holy. Like, that's kind of cool. So then I opened it up to the front page and I was like, oh, okay, so presented to Christina. And I thought to myself, well, that's like tiny Christ. Christ is right in the name there, Christina. And that's something that Mike Clellan also, he's into that whole Christ, Christina, Christian kind of name, all that. And then it said, and Savannah. And I thought immediately, the earth. So Tiny Christ and Earth by J.E.G. Well, who would J.E.G. be? Jesus, Emmanuel, God. And I'm like, and that actually came through in another session I did with two friends, Molly and Rachel, and they gave me a message from JGE. That's they didn't even know about this,
Right.
and so that was kind of strange and
Wait, your
confirming
guide?
too.
Okay.
Huh?
A guide?
A guide?
One of
Maybe
your guides, yeah.
maybe Jesus is a guide. I don't know.
Oh, sure. Or
Or
whoever.
or whoever JEG is. And then on the occasion of forgiveness. And I was like, okay, well, forgiveness, that's really important. Okay, so I'll pay attention. So then I wrote a little blog article and probably, you know, just kind of kept it in the back of my mind, told some of my friends who were like dumbfounded, you know, and I was like, yeah. And, but then it made sense a month later because my mom had a heart attack. And I was estranged with my mom, and I've tried to avoid her for the last 3 decades, mostly. It was a very difficult upbringing, and there was a lot of stuff that happened even in my 20s and 30s and 40s that I just when I was involved with her, it was always not so healthy, you know, and not for me anyway. And so I found out she had a heart attack, so I went to the hospital, and my brothers and sisters said she was going to pass away that night. That's what the doctors had told them. Don't expect her to live the night. So I went in there, and it was about 1:30 in the afternoon, and she'd been taken in at 7, and her bladder function had completely gone, and she wasn't healing. And they thought that she was going to just, you know, have an episode related to that, if nothing else, you know, from all the other side effects from the heart attack, because her bladder was not functioning. And so I asked my brothers and sisters if they would mind if I did a healing, and they know I'm a little different than they are, and they're like, you know, well, you know, okay, you know. So they gave me the approval, so I actually sat there and I did a healing and clearing for her, because I didn't know if she was going to make the night. And I thought, well, because she's acted kind of crazy over the decades, and I thought, well, maybe there's something that kind of possessed her or has been residing near her that needs to be removed. So I did that too, and I did it for about half hour to 45 minutes, somewhere in there. And by 2 o'clock, when I had finished, her bladder function had come back, and it was at 30, which I guess was the normal, which was what they were wanting it to get to, and it hadn't been functioning at all prior to the healing.
The kidneys, yeah.
So
Wonderful.
yeah, so, and then I just, you know, in dealing with my mom during the next 9 months before she finally did pass, in April of the next year, I just kept remembering the Bible, forgiveness, and kept trying to work in that principle for the whole time. So it actually did, there was a reason they dropped it on me, I think. I didn't realize it right when it happened, but it did make sense to me in retrospect.
Sure.
So that's the story.